Today I'm going to show you behind the scenes of quilting, what I need to do to prep the quilt and how the process goes to start quilting any kind of quilt on the long arm quilting machine. This is my long arm quilting machine. It's a Handy Quilter Mara. I have a 12-foot frame, and what I do to start is if your backing needs pieced, I piece it and then I pin it to this roller right here. I pin it all the way across and then I pin it to this roller and then I roll it until it's tight and I smooth it down here as I go to make sure it's not wrinkled anywhere. And I just roll it until it's tight enough, make sure there's no threads on here. And then this bar right here is to roll your quilt top on. Some people use it. I don't choose to use it. I just let my quilt hang so I can maneuver it with my hands easier. So the next thing I do is take the batting, and I've already got it cut and measured, and I lay it on here. I lay it even with the top if I can, and try to center it as much as possible. When I put the backing on, I have two marks. I have a mark on this fabric and a mark on this fabric in the middle, and I center my backing on it. That way my backing is on there straight and it's not crooked. I know exactly where the center is, and I just line the center up. And then I take my quilt and I layer it on top of this batting. And I center it up. I fold it in half to find the middle. I crease it with my finger, or I can put a pin in it, and then I put the center on the center mark on my fabric here, and I lay it as smooth as I can get it. And this is where some people would put it on this roller below, but I just choose to lay it on here. That way I can push and pull it as needed, and it's not going to be as hard. And then I make sure it's all pulled as flat as I can get it and there's no wrinkles, and just let it fall. And I make sure the batting is not bunched up underneath it before I start. So now it's laying flat as flat as I can get it. I go back and check it one more time and then push all this extra out of the way. That way I don't step on it. And then I hook these clips on the end. This helps keep the backing from getting bunched up. It keeps it straight. And I can loosen these or tighten them as I need to. They're on both ends. And once I get those secured, I go back and I make sure my machine has the thread on the bobbin and at the top that I need. I'm using white on this and I already have it loaded on top and the bottom. And I go over here to the very corner where I'm going to start quilting. Sometimes I baste along the top just so my quilt doesn't move. Sometimes I don't. I'm not going to do that today, but I go up here and I click on here to, this is how I measure my quilt so it knows where it's going to quilt on here. And then I go all the way down to the other end. I marked my starting point and now I'm marking the end of the quilt where it needs to stop. And then I just enter manually the size it is. This one is about 67 by 70. So I'm going to mark it at 68 so I have a little bit of extra in case my measurements are off. And then I'm going to put in my design. I'm going to click my design, and then what I would do is put the design in. So I need to figure it's too big for my machine here. I can't go all the way down. This measures 22 by 15. I need to make it smaller so it'll fit. Otherwise, my machine will not quilt the whole thing at one time. So I need to go figure that real quick.
Well, she's figuring that. If you look at her backing right here, yeah, the reason that she has the extra is, again, so these can clip on there, but also so that we make sure everything's centered, just so that we know that we're not going to run off the edge on here as well. You know, we want to make sure we have enough fabric to go. But if you can imagine this machine, you saw the base of it sticks out a few inches from the bottom. So we want to make sure that we can quilt all the way to the edge and still have enough for these to grab onto to keep that backing nice as well.
You always want to have at least 3 to 4 inches all the way around extra on your back. So you want 3 extra inches on this side, on the other side, at the top, and at the bottom. That gives your quilter something to clip to. That way you're not clipping it to right underneath where you're going to quilt. If I clip the back right here, even with this front, the quilting machine would not be able to quilt about an inch over because you'd have those clips there. So that gives the quilter extra room and room to pin at the top and extra room at the bottom because your top will shrink a little bit as you quilt it because it's pulling it with the thread. So now that I got this figured where it's going to fit, I'm going to make it smaller so it will fit in the quilting machine. I just cut the pattern in half so it'll fit, and now I'm going to put it on to the quilt.
And that purple box there is her quilt, and that orange is her coordinates currently. So she's just making it fit so that she has a machine with her throat space is 20 inches there, so 22 inches is 2 over what she has. So she's trying to make it fit to where it can do one whole pass at a time. And now that she's trying to make it squeeze into that purple box as best as possible while making the design look good, not distorting the design too much, but then also not wasting around the edges, but making sure it is getting edge to edge on its quilting.
So now that I got the design in there, I'm going to save it so I don't lose it. I'm just going to name this All Stars because that's what the quilt is called. And now I'm ready to quilt, so I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to start with the quilting. It knows exactly where to start because I've marked it on the machine. So I just let it do its thing where it goes where it needs to start, and then I get my thread ready. I put my threads and I watch it really close to make sure it doesn't bunch it up anywhere on top. Make sure it's not bunching up on the back. And my hands are free. It's doing it all on its own. I can choose to quilt this by myself without the computer running it, but almost everything I do is ran by the computer. All I have to do is watch it and make sure everything runs smoothly and that the quilt doesn't get bunched up. If you look over here, this is where I hang my projects that I have customers bring in for me to do. As you can see, it's empty. So if you want to fill it up for me, I'd be more than happy to work on your projects and quilt them for you. Or if you need something made, just let me know and I can do that too. I don't have anything that I'm working on except this quilt for myself. So fill my rack up. This machine will quilt all the way down to the end of the quilt, and then if the pattern isn't too big, I might be able to get one more row. If it's too big, then I stop the machine and I roll this bar here, and that will roll the quilt top and the backing up another row so I can do the next row. And I keep doing that until I get to the end of the quilt. I'll let you watch this for a little bit longer and then I'll let you go. That's the process of the quilting. Before I put the back on, I square it up on my cutting mat. And then once the quilt's all quilted, I'll take it all off of the machine and then I'll cut all this excess off. That way all you see is the quilt top. And then you flip it over and all you'll see is the back, and it'll be cut even with the quilt. And then it'll be ready to bind. If you have any questions, let me know. That's all I have for you.